The truth is, the moment you feel like quitting is often the exact moment you must push forward, because that pain, that resistance, that's the price of transformation. If you stop now, you stay the same. But if you force yourself to keep going, everything changes. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally in the process of transformation. Every time you step beyond what feels easy, safe, or familiar, you are stepping into the arena of growth. The burning in your muscles during a workout, the nervous tension before a big presentation, the anxiety when trying something new, these are not signals to retreat. They are proof that you're stretching the boundaries of who you've been in order to become who you're meant to be. The mind often resists discomfort because it wants to protect you, to keep you inside the known and controllable. But what it calls protection, growth calls limitation. Think about the way a seed breaks open underground. It doesn't grow by staying whole. It splits, cracks, and shatters its old form to push through the dirt and reach the light. The discomfort is violent, but necessary. Or consider the gym. When you lift weights, you're literally tearing your muscle fibers. That soreness you feel the next day, it's not injury, it's adaptation. It's your body rebuilding itself stronger than it was before. The discomfort is a signal that your limits are being tested and your capacity is expanding. Take someone like an entrepreneur launching their first business. The fear of failure, the sleepless nights, the financial uncertainty, they're all forms of discomfort. But those very experiences are what teach resilience, resourcefulness, and emotional toughness. If you avoid that discomfort, you also avoid the opportunity to grow into the kind of person who can succeed. And it's not just in the big moments. Even small acts, waking up earlier than usual, having a difficult conversation, saying no to a distraction, can all produce discomfort that leads to discipline, clarity, and self-respect. The problem is, most people interpret discomfort as a warning to stop. They hit a wall and turn back, not realizing that the wall was never there to defeat them. It was there to separate the committed from the curious. It was there to prove how badly they wanted it. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the tension, in the friction, in the resistance. Discomfort is the price you pay for real change. It is not a punishment. It is a signal that you are on the edge of something greater. Motivation is like a spark. It's bright, exciting, and it can get you started, but it's also fleeting. It disappears the moment conditions aren't perfect. One bad night of sleep, one discouraging result, one harsh comment from someone close to you, and motivation is gone. That's why those who rely solely on motivation never finish what they start. They only move when they feel like it, and the truth is, you won't always feel like it. Life won't always inspire you. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline is the decision to act regardless of emotion. It's the inner strength that says, I will do what I said I'd do, whether I want to or not. It is consistency without applause, effort without recognition, and progress without permission. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it simply requires that you show up. Imagine a writer working on a book. At first, they may be fueled by excitement. The idea is fresh, the words come easily, and motivation is high. But as the days pass, the chapters get harder, the plot gets tangled, and self-doubt creeps in. That's when most people quit. But the disciplined writer sits down anyway, even when the words don't flow. They write poorly if they must, but they write. They build the habit of showing up. And over time, the book takes shape, not because they were inspired every day, but because they were committed every day. The same applies to a student preparing for a major exam. In the beginning, there's a burst of energy, a vision of success. But that vision fades when distractions pile up or stress sets in. Discipline is what keeps them studying on Friday nights when friends are going out, or waking up early to review notes when they'd rather sleep in. It's not glamorous, it's not fun, but it works. Think about athletes. The ones who win aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who train on the days they'd rather rest. They follow the plan even when it's boring, even when it hurts, even when no one is watching. They understand that motivation might carry them for a lap, but discipline carries them for the entire race. A boxer doesn't train only when he's excited. He trains through exhaustion, through injury, through defeat. It's that relentless repetition that builds the mindset and muscle needed to endure the toughest rounds. Discipline means embracing routine, enduring repetition, and doing the hard things over and over until they become second nature. Even in everyday life, discipline separates success from stagnation. A person trying to get out of debt may feel motivated when they first set the goal, excited by visions of financial freedom. But when they're tempted by sales, invited to dinners, or see others upgrading their lives, that motivation begins to slip. The only thing that keeps them on track is the discipline to say no, to delay gratification, to remind themselves of the bigger picture, to stay the course even when every part of them wants to give in. Discipline creates results when motivation is nowhere to be found. It builds routines that support your future, habits that protect your vision, and strength that can't be shaken by mood swings or bad days. Every goal, every challenge, every obstacle you face, it all begins and ends in the mind. The mind is the first place where battles are fought and either won or lost. Long before the body moves, long before action is taken, it is the mind that decides whether you rise or retreat. The thoughts you allow, the doubts you entertain, the fears you feed, these determine your future more than your circumstances ever could. The greatest enemies are not always visible. They are the quiet whispers that say you're not good enough, the invisible chains of past failures, the limiting beliefs passed down by others who never dared to chase their own potential. And if you don't confront them, if you don't take control of your mental environment, they will sabotage every step you try to take forward. Think about someone recovering from a major setback. Maybe they lost their job, failed a big exam, or faced a public rejection. The outer event is difficult, yes, but the real war begins in the mind. The voice that says, "I'm a failure. I'll never bounce back. Everyone saw me lose." Those thoughts can paralyze a person more effectively than the loss itself. If they let those ideas take root, they'll stop trying altogether. But if they fight back, if they tell themselves, "This is a moment, not a definition. I can learn from this. I've survived worse," then they begin to regain power. Their outer world may still be uncertain, but mentally they are moving back into control. That is the real battlefield, not the job market, not the competition. The battlefield is internal. Consider the example of an athlete standing on the edge of a high-stakes competition. They've trained for months, maybe years, but in the final moments, their thoughts become their biggest opponent. What if I choke? What if I'm not as good as the others? What if today isn't my day? If they lose that mental battle, even the strongest body and the best training won't save them. They will hesitate, second guess, shrink. But if they control their focus, command their inner dialogue, and feed their mind strength instead of fear, they'll unleash their full ability under pressure. The same is true for a speaker before a crowd, a soldier before a mission, a leader before a crisis. The ones who rise are the ones who have trained their minds to stay steady when everything else shakes. Even in the quiet moments, the mind is testing you. When no one is watching, when it's easier to quit, when shortcuts appear, the mind will throw excuses at you, perfectly reasonable ones. You've done enough today. Rest now and try again later. This isn't worth it. These are not harmless thoughts. They are strategic weapons designed to erode your edge, to weaken your will, to delay your progress. And if you don't recognize them for what they are, they will win without a fight. The strongest people are not the ones who feel no fear or doubt. They are the ones who know how to argue with it. They replace "I can't" with "I must." They replace "what if I fail" with "what if I grow." They feed the thoughts that move them forward and starve the ones that hold them back. Every day, you wake up to a mental battleground. You are faced with the choice to surrender to your weaker self or to rise as the master of your mind. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can absolutely control what you choose to believe, what you choose to repeat, and what you choose to focus on. And that control, more than talent, more than luck, more than timing, is what determines who wins and who stays stuck. Pain is inevitable. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you come from, you will face resistance. You will experience loss, failure, setbacks, and moments when the burden feels too heavy to carry. But pain by itself is just suffering until it is anchored to something greater. That's where purpose comes in. Purpose gives pain meaning. It transforms every hardship into a stepping stone, every wound into wisdom, every delay into preparation. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, when your mission burns deep enough inside you, the pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes bearable. Because now it's not just pain, it's fuel. It's part of the price you're willing to pay to become who you were born to be. Imagine a mother working 2 jobs while going to night school. She's exhausted. Her back aches from standing. Her eyes burn from lack of sleep. And every day she's tempted to give up. But she keeps going. Why? Because her purpose is bigger than her exhaustion. She wants to give her children a life she never had. That vision, that reason drives her through the exhaustion, the doubt, and the chaos. The pain she endures on a daily basis would break most people, but she endures it because her purpose tells her this is not permanent. This is necessary. The same logic applies to the athlete who trains through injuries, the student who studies through tears, the entrepreneur who faces bankruptcy but keeps building. The pain is real, but the purpose is louder. Consider a man who's battled addiction for years. The withdrawal symptoms are brutal. The mental fight is relentless. Every day feels like war. But the moment he sees a picture of his children, remembers the hurt he's caused, and decides that being a better father is more important than numbing the pain, that's when the real change begins. His purpose to be present, to be free, to be whole, becomes greater than the temporary comfort of staying broken. And even when it hurts, even when he stumbles, he rises again, not because he's superhuman, but because his why matters more than the suffering he has to walk through to reach it. Think of historical leaders who fought for freedom, for justice, for human dignity. They were beaten, jailed, threatened, silenced, but they kept going because their cause, their purpose, was greater than the pain they endured. They understood that comfort was not the goal, impact was. And the deeper their purpose, the more pain they were able to endure without quitting. That same power lives in every person who chooses to rise above hardship by clinging to their reason, their calling, their vision. Without purpose, pain feels cruel, random, and unbearable. But when you attach that pain to a cause bigger than yourself, it becomes the evidence of transformation in motion. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start saying, this is happening for something greater than me. In everyday life, this principle shows up in subtle but powerful ways. A student pushing through years of study to become a doctor doesn't just endure long nights and mental fatigue because they enjoy it. They do it because they see the future lives they will heal. A person recovering from heartbreak doesn't sit in their pain because they enjoy suffering. They endure the emotional turmoil because they believe in the possibility of something real, something lasting, something better ahead. Pain without purpose leads to despair, but pain with purpose leads to progress, to growth, to character. The depth of your struggle often matches the height of your calling. And the weight of the pain is only bearable when the strength of your purpose is greater. Every time you quit something you committed to, you're not just ending a task or stepping away from a challenge, you're reinforcing a pattern. Quitting becomes easier the next time because your mind remembers the relief of stopping, not the cost of not finishing. It becomes a reflex. You start a goal, it gets tough, you back out. You make a promise to yourself, it requires discomfort, you break it. Over time, your brain no longer longer expects you to follow through. It expects you to fold, and that expectation becomes your identity. People don't set out to become quitters, but it happens slowly, one compromise at a time, one "I'll try again later," one "it's not the right time," one "this isn't for me," until eventually giving up becomes the norm. Now flip that. Pushing through, even when it's hard, even when every fiber of you wants to stop, that also becomes a habit. When you face resistance and move anyway, when you don't feel like showing up but do it regardless, you are teaching your mind to obey your decisions instead of your emotions. And that discipline compounds. You begin to trust yourself. You become the person who finishes what they start, the one others rely on, but more importantly, the one you can rely on. The next time you're tempted to quit, your brain recalls the past victories where you endured, and that memory fuels you to keep going again. The habit of pushing through builds grit, confidence, and self-respect, qualities no shortcut can ever produce. Think of someone who has failed at fitness goals repeatedly. Every year they start a new routine. Every time they hit the same wall. Soreness, slow results, boredom. And each time they quit. Eventually their identity becomes, "I'm just not disciplined," or "I can't stick to things." But that identity wasn't born. It was built through the repetition of quitting. On the other hand, someone else who experiences the same soreness, the same mental fatigue, chooses to show up on day 3, day 7, day 30, not because it's fun, but because they made a decision. Each act of persistence adds a brick to their mental fortress. Soon, exercise isn't just something they do, it's who they are. And that shift didn't come from motivation. It came from the habit of following through. Look at people in business who fail multiple times but keep launching, keep adjusting, keep learning. They don't stop because something didn't work. They keep going because their instinct is not to retreat. It's to find a way forward. That instinct is trained. They've built a habit of resilience. The person who gives up at the first sign of friction will always envy the one who built their success on the back of repeated endurance, not because they were smarter or luckier, but because they decided over and over not to quit. The habit of pushing through is like muscle memory. It strengthens every time it's used. And just like quitting becomes a downward spiral, persistence becomes an upward climb. Even in the small things, the pattern shows. A person who snoozes their alarm repeatedly isn't just tired, they're reinforcing the habit of avoidance. A person who chooses to get up, stretch, and start the day even when they don't feel like it isn't just awake, they're reinforcing control. Every micro decision, every moment of pressure, every time you're faced with the option to quit or keep going, you're not just responding to the moment, you're shaping the pattern of who you are becoming. You're wiring yourself for either resilience or retreat, strength or surrender. The danger is quitting often feels harmless in the moment, but it's never isolated. It's part of a larger story you are telling yourself about what you do when things get hard. And the more you tell that story, the more real it becomes. Most people give up not because they've failed, but because they can't see how close they are to success. When progress slows down, when results don't show fast enough, when effort feels like it's going unnoticed, the mind begins to whisper the lie, "It's not working." But what you can't always see is that the breakthrough is just around the corner. The seed is still under the soil. The foundation is still being laid. Progress isn't always visible, and growth isn't always loud. Sometimes the most powerful shifts are happening quietly, behind the scenes, in the dark places where your discipline, sacrifice, and patience are being tested. The truth is, most people don't fail because they couldn't succeed. They fail because they stopped a few steps too soon. Picture a man digging for gold. He works for weeks, even months, swinging his pickaxe through dirt and rock. He's exhausted, discouraged, and the deeper he digs, the more he doubts. Finally, he gives up, walks away, and sells his claim. The next person who buys the land resumes digging, and just 3 feet beyond where the first man stopped, they strike gold. That story isn't just a metaphor. It's a reflection of real life. People quit businesses right before they gain traction. They abandon fitness goals weeks before their body starts to transform. They leave relationships when healing is just beginning. They throw away dreams right when the resistance was about to give way. The finish line was closer than they realized, but because it wasn't visible, they believed it didn't exist. Think about a student working toward a degree. Years of sacrifice, late nights, pressure, and self-doubt build up. In the final stretch, right before graduation, they feel like they've had enough. What's the point, they think, but what they can't see is that the job offer that will change their life is just months away. The network they're building is about to open new doors. The knowledge they've accumulated is about to collide with opportunity. The discomfort of the moment blinds them to how close they are to elevation. Or consider a single parent grinding through day after day of work, bills, and exhaustion. It feels endless, like survival mode will never end. But the child they're raising is absorbing every lesson. That work ethic, that love, that sacrifice, it's shaping a future leader. And one day, that same child may lift the entire family higher than ever imagined. The parent just couldn't see how close their effort was to creating generational change. It's the same with emotional healing. Someone struggling to overcome anxiety or trauma may feel like they're trapped in an endless cycle. They've been doing the inner work, going to therapy, reading, praying, reflecting, but the pain still lingers. The temptation to give up on healing is strong, but what they can't see is that their mind is slowly rewiring, their patterns are gradually breaking, and their resilience is being forged in silence. One day, a situation that would have destroyed them in the past barely shakes them. Not because the pain disappeared overnight, but because they kept going. They stayed in the fight long enough to see the shift. You're often doing better than you realize. The world doesn't always give you instant feedback. The rewards don't always come on your timeline. But that doesn't mean they're not on the way. So many victories are missed because people walk away in the middle of the process, unaware that the resistance was the signal that they were getting close. Struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It often means you're almost there. The pressure increases before the breakthrough, just like the night feels darkest before the dawn.